Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are exploring a deeply fascinating, honestly paradigm-shifting source text. It weaves together ancient cosmology, modern UFO phenomena, and biblical prophecy into one unified and frankly astonishing narrative. Regardless of your personal background or beliefs, the framework this material presents is incredibly intricate. It completely challenges our conventional, everyday view of the universe and replaces it with a highly structured, multidimensional reality. Our goal today is to just impartially map out exactly what this text is claiming, step by step. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. The source material builds up to this absolutely staggering premise. What if the greatest UFO sighting in all of human history hasn't even happened yet? And what if it's literally written down in the book of Revelation? To understand how the text arrives at this massive climactic twist, we first have to peel back the layers of our conventional universe. We need to look at how this source defines the very structure of creation itself.
The text asserts that to understand our current reality, we actually have to rewind all the way back to the original primordial creation described in the very first verse of Genesis. According to the author, in that first epoch, the separation between the heavenly realm and the earthly realm wasn't the thick, nearly impenetrable veil we experience today. Not at all. Instead, heaven and earth were in a state of really intimate connection. The angelic host moving between these realms wasn't considered some rare supernatural exception. It was just a natural, continuous activity, a fundamental part of how the designed order originally functioned.
To really illustrate this, the text points us to the famous story of Jacob's ladder. Now, the author argues we shouldn't picture a physical wooden staircase propped up against the clouds here. Rather, Jacob was given a momentary, mind-blowing glimpse into an underlying reality. This ladder was a revelation of a dimensional pathway that had always existed since creation. It shows us that angelic beings have established continuous pathways of movement, ascending and descending, right between the different dimensional layers of reality.
And this brings us to a major cosmological reversal. The source completely rejects the modern scientific model of an infinite, ever-expanding universe filled with billions of random galaxies. Instead, it argues for an enclosed, purposefully designed creation governed by strict dimensional boundaries. The text redefines the biblical concept of the firmament. It's not just a physical dome, but a literal dimensional membrane. Think of it like a crystalline boundary that serves as the ceiling of our physical layer and the floor of the spiritual layers above it. In this model, the Earth isn't a random speck, it is the central stage of all creation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crucial difference in how we understand non-human entities. Look, if the universe is an enclosed dimensional structure, then the idea of beings traveling here from distant star systems is fundamentally impossible. Why? Because according to this text, those distant solar systems don't even exist in the way we've been taught. Therefore, the craft and beings seen in our skies aren't crossing infinite space from other planets. They are crossing dimensional layers. They are not extraterrestrial. They are interdimensional.
So you might be wondering, how exactly do these interdimensional beings travel? Well, the text explains that angels are naturally spirit beings, existing as light and fire, but they possess genuine substance and they can interact directly with the physical realm. When their movement between dimensional layers requires them to physically manifest in our earthly realm, they utilize what ancient texts refer to as the chariots of God, or the Merkabah. These are literal, observable vehicles of dimensional travel.
The source directs us straight to the prophet Ezekiel for what is probably the most terrifyingly precise vision of these craft. Ezekiel describes circular craft, wheels within wheels, radiating the color of beryl, capable of moving instantaneously in literally any direction. The author insists this is not a metaphor. It's not a primitive misunderstanding of a weather balloon or a meteor. This is a highly realistic, careful, detailed observation of angelic chariots breaking through that dimensional boundary into our physical visibility.
Ancient traditions refer to this specific order of the heavenly host as the Ophanim. Now, these aren't just metal ships flown by biological pilots flipping switches. The text claims the craft and the spiritual beings are fully integrated. The spirit is literally in the wheels. They possess instantaneous, lightning speed, and they represent physical dimensional breakthroughs. The source makes a direct, unflinching connection here. What ancient humanity called the chariots of God, the modern world is currently calling UFOs or UAPs. It's the exact same phenomenon, just viewed through totally different cultural lenses.
But the text is very quick to clarify that not all interdimensional activity is benevolent. And this brings us to the operations of the fallen host. The source notes that when Satan and his angels fell, they didn't magically lose their interdimensional capabilities, they simply lost their heavenly authority.
Quoting the book of Ephesians, the text neutrally points out that Satan is specifically designated as the prince of the power of the air. This firmly locates the operational domain of the fallen host precisely in the atmospheric layer surrounding our Earth, which, ironically, is the exact same place where modern UAPs are most frequently observed.
According to the source, this atmospheric presence is part of an escalating, centuries-long deception. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. The timeline begins way back in the 16th century with the heliocentric model, which the text claims was designed specifically to make humanity feel insignificant in a vast, infinite universe. Jump to the 20th century, and this paved the way for the ancient astronaut narrative, the idea that aliens built our early civilizations. Now look at today. We're seeing official government UFO disclosure, which the text argues is meant to carefully acclimate the public to non-human intelligence. And in the near future, the text asserts this will all culminate in reinterpreting all of human religion entirely through an extraterrestrial lens.
All of this careful, centuries-long psychological conditioning leads up to what the author calls the Great Inversion. This is the absolute climactic twist of the entire source material. The text asserts that Satan's ultimate strategy isn't to deny the events of biblical prophecy, but to completely invert how humanity perceives them. He's going to present himself as humanity's benevolent, highly evolved extraterrestrial creator, while framing the true God and the returning Christ as a hostile, tyrannical alien invasion force.
To understand how this deception is actually going to work in practice, we have to look at the numbers. Specifically, 1,500. Just let that sink in for a second. According to the book of Revelation, the New Jerusalem, the heavenly city that descends to earth at the end of the age, is roughly 1,500 miles in length, width, and height. It is a geometrically perfect, luminous cube of utterly incomprehensible scale. That's enough to stretch from New York to Denver.
Now, think about the stark contrast between the divine reality and this planned deception. How is a world that's been conditioned by decades of sci-fi movies, UFO disclosures, and the ancient astronaut theory going to react to a 1,500-mile-wide glowing structure descending from the sky, accompanied by millions of powerful beings? The divine reality is that this is the New Jerusalem and Christ's heavenly army. But the alien deception ensures the world will look up and perceive this as a massive, hostile alien mothership bringing an extraterrestrial threat to conquer the planet.
The text asserts that Satan will completely capitalize on this global panic. His defense strategy is remarkably calculated. He's going to position himself as the good alien, right? A benevolent superintelligence stepping in to protect humanity from this bad alien invasion. Under the guise of planetary defense, he will successfully unite all the world's global military forces. Furthermore, the Antichrist won't just be a political leader, he'll serve as an extraterrestrial interface, performing genuine mind-bending dimensional phenomena to prove his supposed advanced alien backing.
This sets the ultimate stage for the final prophetic confrontation known as Gog and Magog, and the text points out this actually happens after a literal 1,000-year reign of Christ. The steps here are startling. Satan is released, and once again he uses the alien narrative to deceive the nations, convincing them they're an oppressed species that needs to liberate themselves from their alien overlords. So they surround the beloved city, the New Jerusalem, but the author really emphasizes the utter futility of this rebellion. There's no epic, drawn-out battle scene. It's resolved in a single sentence. Instantaneous fire from heaven completely and entirely stops the conflict. Just like that.
So, the crucial point is understanding the profound darkness of this deception, where every beautiful divine concept gets completely twisted. The New Jerusalem's perpetually open gates of welcome, they'll be spun as conquest ports for alien subjugation. The Tree of Life, meant for healing, it'll be viewed with absolute terror as a tool for genetic modification and biological control. Conversely, the Mark of the Beast will be sold to the masses as a badge of human liberation and allegiance to our true enlightened creators. The text concludes by stripping away this dark, inverted narrative entirely to reframe the New Jerusalem in its true light. It's not a 1,500-mile-wide weapon. It is not an invasion force. Rather, the tabernacle of God is with men. The New Jerusalem is simply the ultimate eternal home. It's a place prepared with immense love and open gates to welcome humanity back into a direct, intimate connection with their Creator.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a profound question to chew on. The text we've explored today suggests that the way we map out the cosmos, whether you think it's an infinite random void or an enclosed, purposefully designed dimensional structure, directly dictates how we interpret the most monumental events in human history. Whether you view this as literal prophecy or just a fascinating thought experiment, it undeniably forces us to ask, Do our preconceived notions shape what we are prepared to believe? Are we seeing reality as it truly is, or just what we expect to see? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning.